So yeah, patch 1.14 just dropped, and what are the good, the bad, and the ugly, like G9 would say. So first of all, we're gonna talk about the backhand blade. So even though it got a damage buff and a reduction in the speed animation of the crouch attack, it's still very busted, still does a lot of damage, but the main problem is obviously blind spot and swift slash. So yeah, this weapon is still very strong. OP, yeah, still OP, definitely. Next up, even though scatter throw got a decreased damage and there is no longer headshot damage, it's still very busted, especially the close of the night. Close of the night does more than the Smithscript dagger. It's really the close of the night, the outlier here, because it does a shit ton of damage, like a lot of damage, and there is bleed build up on it. And it's just, you can spam it from afar, you know, with the cost of a very few FP. So it's still very busted, very strong weapon. Annoying to fight, because at least now you won't get stun lock because of the headshot kind of glitch bug. When you dodge, you were still getting headshotted. Moving on to the Pata. Pata, still a fantastic weapon. The main problem of Pata is not really its damage, even though the damage was off the chart. You can still do a lot of damage with this weapon, especially when you pair it with the winged sword insignia or even munition prosthetis. The main problem of Pata is that it's such an outlier in its category. It's a fist weapon on the, how it's called, on the thrusting type, but it's still, you know, the recovery on it is almost non-existent. You can just react to your opponent's attack and punish them when they whiff. You can even take the initiative and be aggressive and still not get punished, because you can come out so fast of your attack, just like in this example right here. So Pata, still fantastic, still gonna stay one of the best weapons in the game. Moving on to the Smithscript Shield. Oh, that's a mouthful to talk about. But yeah, the shield that you throw like a frisbee, it's still busted. It still does quite a lot of damage for how free it is. Low recovery, high damage, just spam it to win. Still annoying, you're still gonna see it. Moving on to Dual Naginata. So Dual Naginata is not necessarily Naginata that got nerfed, but it's really the damage of Powerstanced spears. So not great spears, just spears. So it's good, it's a welcoming damage, you can still get a lot of damage out of it. However, there is much more troublesome weapon, in my opinion, in the sandbox, just like the one we're seeing right now, Rakshasa. Rakshasa, even though Wheat Cutter got a little bit of a nerf, with a reduction of poise damage in its follow-up attack, it's still very good. The main problem of Rakshasa is not really that it has too much poise on its Asher 4, is that it has too much poise on everything else, and it does a lot of damage, and it's very long, and it's a great katana. So yeah, this weapon is still going to be busted. If anything, they should have reverted the buff to Wheat Cutter to make it as slow as it was before. Moving on to one of the clear winner of this patch, which is Rellana's Twin Blade. Basically, this light great sword was already fantastic. It was a really strong weapon, really fun weapon to play it, and they buff its Asher 4 as well as Rellana's Cameo. Rellana's Cameo basically gets you the buff faster and you get more damage, and also we have an increase in the light wave range, poise damage, and attack speed. So your Asher 4 R1 is just going to be fantastic, a great tool. It was already very good, now it's even better. The R2 also got more poise damage. It was already doing a lot of poise damage, but yeah, Rellana's Twin Blade, fantastic weapon. I love it, you love to see it. Moving on to the light and dark Asher 4. So light was called from Ross Bucket as one of the best straight sword in the game, which he was right, and now it's even better because you can use the Asher 4 even faster without fearing to be punished. The problem is that the dark version is still very trash. It's more usable, but it's still very trash. Moving on to the hand-to-hand combat weapon, the both that we have in the game, which got a buff. Basically, they just feel much better. They were already good weapons, they were just, now they're a bit smoother, a bit faster into their transition of attack, but yeah, it's nothing too crazy. It was already very good, especially after the poise damage in 1.13, and now it's just a much better weapon. So yeah, try it and have fun. Moving on to Ansbach's build, I'm not sure how you say his name, but basically his Reaper and his Incantation Ansbach Furious Blade got a buff. So the buff to Ansbach Furious Blade to talk about, so this is the Incantation, is not enough. It should always poise break. They need to do something, or they need to make it come out faster and it still does the amount of poise damage that it does, or it needs to have a lot, stay in the state that it is and have a lot more poise damage. Talking about the Reaper, Reaper. The Reaper is good. It's a good weapon. It wasn't nothing to write home about. I don't know if that's the right idiom to use, but yeah, it's a better now. The Astral 4 feels a bit better, but it's nothing crazy, broken, overpowered, or anything else. It's just a better weapon now. The main problem is that it's a Reaper, and the problem with Reapers is that sometimes you're a missing attack you have no business missing because of the direction of the attack coming out. But that's just my opinion, of course. You know what you guys think. The Crucible Thorn is still pretty trash. The thing is that at least you can trade with it because it has a hyper armor, but it's still pretty trash Astral 4 in my opinion. And the worst one is probably the feather thingy, the divine feather thing, which is just like, ugh. Even though they said they buffed the range is still pretty trash, the damage is still shit. It's just terrible. I mean, use it for fun if you like it, but it's nowhere near what it does to you from the NPC. So, and the last thing that I would like to talk about is something a bit revolutionizing, is really the speed buff on most of the weapon class R2. So in some instance it's borderline broken, in some instance it just makes a lot more weapon that you can press, a lot more button that you can press on your weapon. So it's just fantastic. Like for example, not a bad thing is what you're seeing on screen right now. Now the Storm Stomp into R2 on the Colossal Sword, two-handed true combos, which is it's gonna make Storm Stomp even more brain dead. It was already quite stupid, but now it's even better. But it makes also a lot of other weapon even shine more, like for example the Sword of Night, which now seem to have a true combo on its R2 even when you two-handed, which is a welcoming change. So many katanas, even the neutral R2 on katana that has a thrust attack is very nice. Great sword have a much faster R2, especially the Claymore one. So in the Claymore, from what I understood with talking about it with Frosty on his stream, he was talking about the release window, which was much faster. So it's not just necessarily the R2. If you just press R2, it's not necessarily much faster. It's really when you charge it a little bit and you let go, you're gonna be able to roll catch people much more reliably. So that's a welcoming change. Obviously having more button to press is always welcoming. It's gonna make a lot more weapon viable. We still haven't gone through all the testing, all the possibilities. I'm sure in the coming days we're gonna see a lot of people coming out with many new true combos. But a few notes I wrote from Frosty's stream was really like, he seemed to be very excited about the Halberd R2, which is much better, especially on the Knight Rider Glaive. The whips are much more usable, even though the Yorumi didn't got a buff. Many more whips are going to be very good, especially the Tooth Whip, which can already do some stupid combo. Let's imagine what's going to happen now. Great Spears R2, much faster. The Tree Spear is so fast. Straight Sword R2, much faster also. Michaela's Sword, Raptor, you know, I think it's called Raptor, it's not Raptor Talent, I forgot, the Straight Sword Raptor thingy. It's much better now. So yeah, I think this is going to open up the game for more mix-up potential, and it's just gonna make the game a bit better. Now, what I think about this patch overall, I think it's a great patch. It's nothing crazy, nothing revolutionizing. It's just a welcoming patch. There are still a couple of outliers that I would like to see being touched, like Flaming Strike, Storm Stomp, Storm Assault, Backhand Blade, unfortunately, is still busted. So yeah, that's pretty much my review on the patch so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if I've missed anything. I love you guys, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.